Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to twitch.tv/Ice Cream Uploads. It's a brand new week, and it's not a Monday though, and it's not the morning, and everything's just kind of been thrown into disarray. So for those of you that don't know, my name is Graham Day, and this man sat just on my shoulder. Actually, do you know what? Actually, I can't even do that. I was going to put you on the shoulder setup, but you're not in the studio, so the background's not blue, so it's not going to work. But anyway, I'm Graham, and this is Baby. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It feels so weird not saying good morning, and it feels so weird it not being Monday. And actually, I don't even know what day it is, what time it is, what's happening. Where are we? Who are we? Anyway, I know where we are though. I know who we are. My name is Graham. This is Bib. We are Ice Cream, and in true Ice Creamy fashion, we are bringing you the scoop. This is your daily dose of news from the games industry and beyond. We usually bring you this scoop 5 times a week, and it's usually at 10 a.m, but with COVID, everything's been pushed back a little bit, and we are now going live at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 times a week, except this is a bank holiday week, so we've not done the Monday scoop. So, yes, 4 episodes of the scoop, starting with this one today. We are live on twitch.tv/Ice Cream Uploads. If you are in the chat, please feel free to say hello as Mr. Tasim Anvir, which, industry insider, Tasim Anvir, it's alter ego, but whatever. He's in the chat. He's just used one of our exclusive emotes, and it's actually quite an audible emote. If you were to press on that emote, it would make a noise that sounds a little bit like...
Hello!
There we go. Anyway, if you are in the chat, as Asim has done, please feel free to get involved, because we turn this into a YouTube video, and then a little bit later on today, we turn into an audio podcast that goes out in 4 different places. They are iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Google Play, so feel free to get involved. But Bank Holiday weekend, babe, what'd you get up to?
Do you know what? I didn't actually play that many games. I tell a lie, I did actually on a Friday. Sorry, that was clearing the throat rather than a sneeze.
Oh, I changed scenes just as it happened, so I didn't see it, and it just came back on. It looked like you were like mid-dab kind of thing, like...
No, nothing like that. I just punched my microphone in, sorry about that. I played quite... in fact, I probably drank more playing pro clubs than I have played pro clubs all year. Like, the amount... Did you watch Bongos Bingos again on Saturday?
I did.
How did you find it?
I don't remember what the living room like at the end of the night. I don't know. Now we took it quite easy on it. To be fair, we had like 3 or 4ish drinks, but we were on the sauce the night before doing our Friday pub quiz, so we were a bit tender on the Saturday. So we kind of took it a bit easier on the Saturday.
Well, Samantha did a full bottle of gin. I did a full bottle of Di Serrano, and a quarter of vodka. Then was playing pro clubs till God knows what time. But all I've done, literally, since we've been working from home is play pro clubs in the evening and get pissed. Play pro clubs in the evening, get pissed. The amount of title charges we've been on, the amount of relegations our club has suffered, has been excruciating. But yeah, that's pretty much my life at the moment. Pro clubs and drinking.
Disappointing. You could be playing co-op Pez with me. I mean, for some reason, I'm getting the impression that you just don't want to spend your evenings talking to me, babe.
That's a lie.
Lies.
That's a lie. Well, pro clubs is the greatest mode in football game history, anyway. So,
just takes effort to get used to it, and I've already gone through a football grind. I can't be bothered going through another one.
It is though. It literally is like there's nothing better.
Join me on Warzone instead. That was pretty much my weekend. Warzone, a little bit of PUBG, repainting the living room, and that was kind of about it. Yeah, getting drunk. Oh, one thing we do a pub quiz on a Friday night, and that is a Skype pub quiz, because the group of people that I would do the pub quiz with, well, I've never heard of Discord, so it's disappointingly poor quality, but still we go through it anyway, and whoever wins gets to host the pub quiz next week. Anyway, we won last week, so we're hosting the pub quiz this week, and I've been tinkering, downloaded OBS, put all of the add-ons in, so now I can create a virtual camera in OBS, so whenever I'm going to Skype I can go in with the full setup. So for those of you watching on video services, you may be able to see this, and it may be balls up, so if it is, I apologise. There, so this is, if I get rid of me, this is the pub, so whenever I do PUBG streams, our chief colourer, Craig, made the pub with G, which is this setup. Anyway, we're basically using that as like a visual setup, so when we do our pub quiz, we're going to be sat in a proper pub background and everything, so it's going to be really cool. It's going to be cool.
Have you managed to do that though when you haven't got a green screen behind you?
Well, so like if I put the pub gone, it doesn't work properly because I'm not there. But as soon as I put me on, then you see that there is no green screen. So yeah, the only way I can do it is to put the green screen up. So my green screen is there. This black thing stood up here. That's my green screen. So when it comes to actually doing it, I'll just get that out and put the green screen up. The job's good, and me and Danielle will be sat in the pub. But anyway, let's jump into the news. If you're in the chat, good afternoon. Feel free to get involved as we want your thoughts and impressions on our thoughts and impressions of these news stories. That's kind of how it works. It's a back and forth. So we go through the news, we give you our input, and we want your input too. Like, remember, we do turn this into on-demand content, so feel free to get involved because, you know, people want to hear what you've got to say. And without further ado, the first news story of the day is written by James Batchelor from GamesIndustry.biz, and the article says WWE2K21 reportedly cancelled in favour of new game. Former developer claims 2K will publish a different title following 2K20's woes, and 2K22 will skip next gen. So reports have emerged that 2K Games will not be publishing its usual annual wrestling title this year. Justin Leeper, who previously wrote narrative for earlier WWE games, published a video sharing details of big changes to the series this year. And then there's a quote within the article that says, "I have heard from reliable sources and I truly believe that WWE 2K21 has been cancelled," he said. "There will be no game this year." He also pointed to the fact that this year's WrestleMania event, historically used as a platform to announce or tease the next WWE game, featured no such news. According to Ringside News, Leeper previously shared insight on why WWE 2K20 suffered so many issues. GamesIndustry.biz has reached out to 2K Games for comment. In his video, Leeper said these issues influenced the decision to scrap the game and suggested the series would benefit from a year off. He alluded to changes behind the scenes, most likely the split between 2K and the series' longtime developer Ukes, and that current developer Visual Concepts needs more time to become better accustomed with the process of making these games. No shit, Sherlock. And then let's continue with the article before we jump into... Oh, actually, let me see. Is this a very, very long... Oh, no, okay. It's the next article down. Okay. Leeper also suggested that the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted production and distribution, which will have also affected 2K's plans. However, while his opening claim said there would be no traditional WWE 2K this year, he did hint that a palate cleanser is on the way. And then there's another quote within the article that says, "I've also heard that there is another WWE game this year that 2K is publishing, a different kind of WWE game from a different kind of developer that's not Visual Concepts," he said. I could say more on that, but I won't because I've already probably pissed off a lot of people at 2K. And finally, Leeper claimed next year's game, which he referred to as 2K22, will not be on the next generation consoles. Instead, it will still be released for PS4, Xbox One, and probably PC. WWE 2K20 suffered several technical issues around launch, and even as late as New Year's, complaints over the title even prompted Sony to offer full refunds to PlayStation owners. As our resident WWE slash WWE Hall of Fame or slash WWE Network consumer, Mr. Biberino, who has spent approximately 97% of his off...
Genuinely, though.
Yeah, at the time that he's been away from the office working from home, he's been consuming WWE content from home. So, as Mr. WWE from the Ice Cream TV, thoughts?
I was actually going to buy this game this weekend because it is down to, I think, £13 at this point, because that's how much of a disaster it has been, but I still stayed away from it. Like, from what I've read, knocking about still, it is still a smash lasagna of a mess. So I won't touch it. However, I have been playing Day of Reckoning on the GameCube, which I've never played before, and I will hold it in extremely high regard so far. It's been fantastic, a proper WWE game. It's like a hybrid between the arcadey stuff and a bit of a sim too. But when it comes to the 2K series, especially this year's, it really does not surprise me, and it's a welcome change if it is going to be not going to be coming out this year. The thing that I find weird about the article though is, at the end they said that the new the one that will be coming out will be 2K 2022, which is fine if they're taking a year off, but that's still going to be out on PlayStation, Xbox One, and probably PC. No mention of new of the new generation, which makes me think that the Visual Concept guys that have taken over from Ukes, they don't have the confidence in them to create a good enough game for the new for the new generation of consoles. Like they're still going to be using old hardware by then. But I mean, with the way that some of the wrestlers look in this brand new in the game this year, like The Rock, for instance, there's a thumbnail that I've made today is meant to look like The Rock, but instead it just looks like some other Samoan man. Looks nothing like him, but yeah, it's. They also said in the article that there will be a different kind of WWE game this year, which I like that because there was a game called WWE All Stars that came out probably about 9 or 10 years ago. Brilliant game, proper over the top. Like I'm sure it was called WWE All Stars. I think I actually completed this on 360. I got the 1K on WWE All Stars. Yeah, it was WWE All Stars. What a game that was! In fact, it might even be. I don't know if I saw it. 2011 it came out, so 9 years ago. And that was a proper arcade brawler. I don't know how to define it. Really, it was like a. Someone else gonna tell it by THQ. Just seeing if they had an actual genre for it, because it wasn't a wrestling game per se. It was more of a fighting game. Over the top animations and wrestlers bearing more of an exaggerated look. The game is a combination of a fighting game and a wrestling game, with combos playing a major factor in gameplay, both on the ground and mid-air. I hope it's something like that again, because that was a seriously fun game.
David says it was the arcade-looking game, and I've just managed to turn my torch on trying to sort my phone out. What a good effort.
I did not realise that it came out on the PlayStation 2 as well.
That's why it looked arcadey, which is quite funny though, because we're talking about WWE games not being up to scratch, and we're talking about PS2 games now. I mean, that's kind of what 2K20 feels like. It feels like a PS2 game. Although, actually, I say that PS2 games were much more stable. It's interesting because we've gone from WWE2K19, developed by Hughes. Reasonably liked, I'd say reasonably, because I didn't see anyone disliking it, but it also didn't kind of like set the world on fire from me. I mean, I'm someone that grew up playing wrestling games up until like kind of the PS3, and then I kind of phased away from it. I did play, I think maybe 2K14 or something like that briefly. I didn't. It was obviously the control set was very different from what I used to. It would have taken me a long time to get used to it. I just kind of thought it was nice to drop into or drop out of it. Job's good. So yeah. Anyway, my point is WWE games have been progressing, but they're not kind of taking over the whole world like Here Comes the Pain and Shut Your Mouth was and things like that. However, they weren't pissing people off, so they're just doing their thing. That's fine, chipping away, just like I suppose sports games are, like football games are for a lot of people. A lot of people will be oblivious to football games. There's another one and another one and another one. Oh great, it's a new year, there's another football game. So WWE kind of fall into that, a sports game, annual release, job's good. But what they weren't doing is absolutely shitting on their audience, which is what 2K20 arguably has done. Yes, they have fixed a lot of it in terms of the glitches and the bugs, but the bits that I see, even now, you compare like by like some of the characters from 2K20, some of the wrestlers, not characters, they're not, well, they are fictional, I suppose. Some of the wrestlers from 2K20 versus some of the wrestlers from 2K19, and last year's looks better still in a lot of cases. So yeah, I think Visual Concepts clearly are a decent developer in terms of I believe they're owned by Take-Two, if I'm aka 2K, acquired by Sega and sold to Take-Two in January 2005. So yeah, that's what it is. Take-Two were essentially outsourcing everything to Yuke's, who've been making the games forever. Yuke's know how to develop for the generation, know how to develop those characters, will have had loads of assets that could have been recycled and improved and so on. But clearly Take-Two, for whatever reason, thought, oh, well, we can do this. They're just recycling everything and doing it the same again each year. We can do this in-house using our owned developers' Visual Concepts and giving it to them. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, if they aren't going to go for the next-gen console in 2022, then that seems like, well, the learning curve is drastic there. Surely Visual Concepts aren't up to scratch if it's going to take them so long to be able to get something for the next gen. I mean, it doesn't even commit to 2023. Is that going to be on it? I mean, surely we'll be halfway through a generation by that point.
Yeah.
So is it even?
So it's so far out.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Where's the article? I've lost it. I'm trying to find up this Visual Concepts bit. There we go. So yes, the fact that they've done a bad job. They have 2K19, nice. 2K20, not so much. Taken a lot of time. Even as the article says, they got to New Year's and there was a big glitch. What was it? People couldn't actually log into the game on the January the 1st because the game had like an internal clock that shut everything off on at midnight on New Year's Eve. So when it hit New Year's Day, no, you can't play this game. So that it's almost like noob setup, but technically Visual Concepts kind of were in that sense. Yeah, they're not. They know what they're doing. They develop games better than I can, for sure. And they've been around forever. But that was their first attempt at creating one of these games, and it absolutely showed. Everyone could see it. So the fact that they've been given a few extra years in terms of, okay, we're not going to have one next year, but then we're only going to develop for the old platform. It just screams that they're not ready for it to me. If they can't develop the game on the current gen, and it's going to take them 2 or 3 years to develop one just on the current gen, which at that point will be last gen, then surely that's not a developer, or that plan for that surely isn't something that you should progress with.
Well, I don't know the entire history of Visual Concepts, but the fact, like we both just mentioned, that they're not going to have access to be able to develop games for a next gen console within 2 years. Does that say a lot about Visual Concepts perhaps not sticking around, or they're not trusting enough, or they're looking 2K will be looking elsewhere to potentially fill that Yuke's gap in? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's the alternative palette cleanser game that they're going to be looking at then. Although, yeah, okay, concepts. I mean, not in terms of Visual Concepts, in terms of theories. Then maybe they have seen a little bit of stagnation. As I was talking about that football game thing, the annual release cycle, it's hard to make something that completely rips up the rule book in a 9-month development window, essentially. That's providing that you've got only one team and not 2 teams that are taking on separate segments. So in that time, it's hard to develop something completely new. Maybe they're using this shit situation as an opportunity to go, okay, well, that's it. We're going to step off. We're going to have a year off. It makes sense to do that now. And that will then give us the time to try other things. And yes, we can keep rolling out wrestling games year after year after year, and they'll be fine. But now there's new consoles coming out with forward compatibility, or we assume. We know that it's definitely there on the Xbox Series X. We'll be able to play Xbox One X games. We assume it's going to be there on the PS4. I think it's confirmed actually. The PS4 games will be able to play on the PS5, and some of the other games will be. Like, is it? Oh no, it's only like the top 100 games or something, wasn't it? I can't remember.
At launch.
So yeah, maybe they're assuming then that they can just build for the current gen and then upscale that to the next gen. And maybe the palette cleanser is kind of an idea of that's where WWE games. They're seeing having people come into the ring, jobs are good. And are they trying to do what Battle Royale did for first person shooters? Okay, we have Team Deathmatch and that sort of thing, and different versions of Team Deathmatch. Yes, we have Capture the Flags or Headquarters or whatever you want to call them, Gun Game and things like that, but it's all kind of the same sort of thing. Battle Royale changed the dynamic. Are they looking for their sort of Battle Royale moment for fighting games kind of thing? I mean, that's probably not what it is, but it just seems so bizarre to throw out a palette cleanser. And the quote was, "I've heard also that there is another WWE game this year, that 2K is publishing a different kind of WWE game from a different kind of developer that's not Visual Concepts." It sounds odd. It's a different kind of wrestling game from a different kind of developer, but it's also still being published by 2K. having that whilst everything else is ongoing, I just don't. There's so many different variables. Is it a case of the game is so bad and the reputation's tarnished, they're kind of giving up on it? So they're trying something else? Are they just trying something else so they can do like an Activision sort of Infinity Ward versus Activision versus Sledgehammer Games, developing different titles so they can go to an annual release cycle with different people releasing different games each year? And I don't quite know where it is, but the bit that is like derailing me the most is absolutely the we're going to have a year off and then we're going to come back with a shit product. Nobody has a year off to come back with a game that was last gen. You have a year off to come back shiny and new for the current gen. It just seems so bizarre.
Yeah, the palette cleanser is a weird way of putting. I think a visual concept is going to be doing just a palette cleanser is where I think that they're going to be going with that. I think they're literally going to find somebody else to make the games for 2K20 for the 2K annual games going forward, and I think visual concepts will be working on the palette cleanser. The way that they made the characters look in this game makes me feel like they want to go down a completely different approach. It's either they're not good enough to be able to create the visual effects that Ukes used to make. So they're going to go down a more arcadey route, which is what the palette cleanser comment comes in as. But yeah, I don't think visual concepts will be working on the main game going forward.
See, I'd agree with that, but that's why I think this is kind of why I'm getting lost. So my understanding, or my impression, not understanding, my impression is that is well, exactly what Asim just said. Maybe visual concepts weren't ready and still aren't fully ready. That's my impression. My impression is that they've supported Ukes, and the Ukes have tried to do some sort of handover to visual concepts for them to develop it all in-house and haven't done a very good job. It's their first time doing it. They clearly know what they're doing. They've been around for over 20 years. They've been owned by Sega. They've been bought off them by Take-Two. They know what they're doing, but they don't know what they're doing in this instance, so they need time to get used to it. But I mean, I could see them giving the palette cleanser, but the comment says that it's being made by someone else, which just sounds like it's another recipe for disaster. You've had the WWE2K games made by Ukes, which they then gave to visual concepts, and it didn't go well. Having a palette cleanser created by a different kind of developer that's not visual concepts is what the quote says, and then giving that to visual concepts seems like it's kind of like opening themselves up again, if that's what they're going to do. So that would then make me think, okay, visual concepts can do stuff if they do it all themselves. Jobs are good, and giving something that someone else has already done and asking them to inherit their work, maybe not their strong point. So I wouldn't do that with them, which then makes me think, I mean, this other game, I mean, it could be anything, I suppose. It could be a mobile game for all we know. It could be WWE Ultimate Team. We'll call it what? What?
I've just been looking at their recent the WWE game timeline, and since 2011, when they brought out WWE All Stars, they brought out an annual game, but also they brought out 7 different mobile versions of the games. So yeah, since the palette cleanser, looking at this now with the amount of mobile games that they are out there, it wouldn't surprise me if it went down that route. So since WWE SmackDown vs Raw 2011, then you had WWE All Stars, then we had the annual games like WWE 12, 13, 14, 2K14, sorry, 2K15, blah blah blah. But in between that, we had WWE Rumblers, WrestleFest, John Cena's Fastlane, Rockpocalypse, WWE Supercard, which I'm currently playing at the moment, WWE Immortals.
Is that the card game?
Yeah, that's the card one. Yeah, it is good. Like if you like Top Trumps games.
Have you been playing that for a while?
About 8 days.
Oh no, it's not what I thought. Then I remember you playing some sort of card game that I thought was WWE focused, but that was like a year ago or whatever.
I did pick it up back then, but I mean, like, since in the last 8 days, I've proper hammered it. Like the cards that I've got now are pretty good. And then WWE Immortals, and then WWE Mayhem. So you've got a lot of iOS, Android games sandwiched in. They're probably every 18 months are bringing out an Android, a mobile game, alongside the annual games, shall we say. So it's a lot of palate cleansers, shall we say, if that's the kind of route that they're going to be going down.
I actually quite like the look of WWE All Stars in terms of like that over the top sort of caricature-y sort of design. Hands are massive brilliant. And so I kind of like
the game mode so good in there. There was oh god, what? It was like a road to WrestleMania. It's got to be on here somewhere.
The only thing with that for me is I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I haven't played wrestling games for a while, but I remember the jump from playing things like WWF Attitude and so on. See, I quite liked it at the time, but then the jump to like the likes of SmackDown and then Shut Your Mouth and In Your House. No, was it? I can't. They're all merging. Loads of Know Your Role. There we go. So jumping to those, it was just a big step up because it went from being, oh well, this is Street Fighter with a bar that you have to build up your power moves and so on, and to something that the SmackDown sort of having to charge up your SmackDown moves and being able to have the big all singing, all dancing thing. I remember like, or was it you could do the finishing moves wherever you wanted actually previously? Either way, it just took away the Street Fighter 1 versus 1. You've got bars at the top of the screen and it's all very linear, and it became something like you were able to change arenas. You could throw someone into a door to send them to go backstage when you were doing the hardcore matches and things like that, and throw them into cookers that would just go psh, and then they'd stand there and go, oh my god, there's gas coming out of this thing, which I mean, cheesy as hell, but it changed, it broke new ground. So going back to that almost kind of seems like I'm not so sure. It looks fun. But then again, I suppose that's what it is. If you've had 15 years of those kind of games, then having something that's a little bit more simple, that is the palate cleanser, might be what they need to get rid of that bad taste in the mouth after 2K20. But actually, who is that? Shawn Michaels? That is Shawn Michaels. Look at the size of the chin on Shawn Michaels. I'll show you.
Yeah, like the moves that was in All Stars, like if you was going to do John Cena would do the attitude adjustment, they'd go like 6 foot in the air and then hit the ground, and when Triple H was going to do his pedigree, the whole ring would completely shake and go electric. It was good. Like the modes that they had inside there, they had fantasy matches that was pre-booked for you, but I can't remember that there was 3 modes. There was like a tag team one. There was an Undertaker mode where it was just like a gauntlet and you'd go through all his WrestleMania stuff. And there was another one as well. I can't remember what it was, but the amount of replayability that you'd have every single time you do something, you unlock a new wrestler or a new attire or a new entrance or something like that. So you had a lot to be able to do. If you could pick this up cheap, I don't know if it's backwards compatible on the Xbox One, but it's definitely worth picking up. It's really, really good.
Well, no wrestling game will ever give me that moment of being, I don't know, like 13, 14, 15, whatever I was, playing the first ever SmackDown game on was it PS1? Is that what it was? And then like getting my SmackDown move charged, and it says press L1 to use it or whatever, and it could be The Rock, it could be whatever, but just seeing like pressing it and then the word SmackDown just goes across the screen. It was like, oh my god, this is amazing! These graphics are so real. How could games ever get better than this? And you look at it back now and you think, but that. Go on.
Sorry.
No, go on.
I was saying I've actually been playing SmackDown, SmackDown 2. Know Your Role on my RG350, and I forget how hard and how fast-paced that game was. At the moment, because I'm playing as The Rock in the season mode, it keeps on putting me in triple threat or battle royale matches. So it's just an absolute nightmare because I don't know who I'm locking onto, and I get thrown out the ring, but I can't get back up fast enough. It's an enjoyable game, but that's how wrestling games should have been, like the heavy metal music in the background as you're playing in the ring, rather than it being like listening to the same shitty commentary being said every single time.
Yeah, I remember my mate at school, Gary, used to have. He had like a glitch on, I don't know, it was his disc or his save or anything, but he'd basically got really far into the season. I think it was something to do with his save file got corrupt, and he'd say if it was WrestleMania, every year the game would crash at WrestleMania. So he'd go into his match at WrestleMania, win it or lose it, and then it'd crash straight after it, so he couldn't progress to the next thing. So it's like once a week he'd bring his memory card in for me to take home. I'd plug it in, win his match at WrestleMania to take it to like April or whatever it was, and then take it back to him so he can carry on for the next year. And then the next week he'd bring it in. I'm at WrestleMania again. Can you do it for me again? There you go. Boom, boom, boom.
That sounds like a pirated game, not a glitch.
To be fair, I think it actually was a legit game, because it was like. I don't know whether mine was legit though. Maybe it wasn't. I can't remember. But I think his was. But for some reason, it was just on his system. It just wasn't having it. So I just pull out my big ass moves, make him lose some if he was being a dick in school that week. Oh, I'm sorry, you lost your title at WrestleMania. Oh no.
No, you're doing it again.
Anyway, let's move forward. WWE 2K21 potentially cancelled. 2K2022. So a game that is, well, still numerically looking at the calendars right now, 2 years away, isn't gonna be next generation. Seems comical to think about that right now. But we will see. No doubt more will come in time. Anyway, let's jump into our next story. Speaking about games for 2022, a nice little bit of a segue. Something that might be up Bibarino's alley. And I believe, I may be wrong, but I believe, did I see Mr. Tanvir sharing this with you on social media? Is that where this came from?
It most certainly is, yes.
Okay, bringing it up on screen now. Let's make that full screen for you. Written by Game Central for Metro, Resident Evil 4 remake is already underway and will be coming out in 2022. These obviously are rumours, but the article says work on the remake of a Resident Evil 4 started 2 years ago, according to the latest rumours, and will be the biggest remake project so far. Despite a less rapturous reception for the Resident Evil 3 remake compared to that of Resident Evil 2, Capcom has allegedly started work on the next one, and it's going to be Resident Evil 4. That may seem obvious on the face of it, but many had hoped that Resident Evil Code Veronica, which advanced the plot and gameplay mechanics much more than the original Resident Evil 3, or Resident Evil 1, or... Okay, I'm struggling. That may seem obvious on the face of it, but many had hoped that Resident Evil Code Veronica, which advanced the plot and gameplay mechanics much more than the original Resident Evil 3. Okay. Or Resident Evil 1 or 0 might be next. Okay, I get it now. I mean, that little bit in the middle threw me off. But anyway, people were hoping that Code Veronica, Resident Evil 1 or 0 might be next, but it looks like it's Resident Evil 4. So Resident Evil 4 is certainly a much better known entry, but it's also a much more difficult prospect, given that it's widely regarded as one of the best video games ever, and much about what made it so unique risks being lost if the controls are updated to be the same as Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes. That doesn't make sense to me, but Bib can fill us in shortly. These design problems will apparently fall to new studio M2, which is headed by former Platinum Games president Tatsuya Minami, and while technically independent was founded with financial help from Capcom. M2's first project was the Resident Evil 3 remake, where they were one of several contributing studios, but they will take the lead on Resident Evil 4, according to website VGC. And now, pretty much of a regular thing on the streams for the last couple of weeks, we have an embedded tweet from Aesthetic Gamer 1, aka Duskolum. So here comes me talking about the Resident Evil 4 remake, and it was kind of inevitable. It was going to leak sooner than later, even though I do still feel now isn't the best time for it to leak. The game is still at least a couple of years away and isn't even the next Resident Evil game releasing. And then back to the article itself, it's claimed that while Resident Evil 4 director Shinji Mikami, whose company Tango Gameworks is owned by Bethesda, was given the chance to lead the project, he declined, but he has still been offering advice since planning work began in 2018. On Twitter, leaker Aesthetic Gamer has confirmed that they also believe a Resident Evil 4 remake is underway, and suggests that was the main reason M2 was founded in the first place, and that the development team for Resident Evil 4 is a much larger one than for the remakes of 2 and 3. Aesthetic Gamer predicts that the new remake will not be officially released for a year or more until after the release of Resident Evil 8, details of which were also recently leaked. Sorry, I can do words, it's fine. The details of Resident Evil 8 were also recently leaked, that's what I was trying to say. Resident Evil 8 hasn't been officially announced by Capcom either, but current rumours claim it will be released in spring 2021, which suggests a reveal sometime in the next few months. I'm going to mute my mic while I throw this over to you, baby, for your thoughts.
I've just seen Aston's comment saying, would have loved Code Veronica remake, but someone made a good point on Twitter saying that they're basically remaking the best-selling games in the series. Sadly, as good as it was, Code Veronica didn't do as well in comparison. Good that they've got Mikami's blessing. Love that. So, I'm in two minds with this. Not because I don't like the game. It's not selfish reasons about. It isn't my favorite one. I kind of understand why people love this game as much as they do, but for me, it isn't anywhere close to being the best Resident Evil game. I have an idea as to why people think it's probably the best Resident Evil game, and I think it's because this was the first game in the franchise that made the cross between survival horror and technically a bullet hell game, because the amount of bullets that you end up picking up in this game and firing, for me there's no survival horror element in this game whatsoever. It is an action game rather than a survival horror game, and I think that's why more people hold it in high esteem, because a lot more people played it. If I can remember rightly, it was originally a GameCube exclusive. They had an agreement with Nintendo to bring this Resident Evil. Was it on the Dreamcast? There was this Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil Code Veronica, and Resident Evil 0. Those three, I think, were Nintendo exclusives at one point before getting ported to the PlayStation 2 and the Dreamcast. I think that's right. But they did have an agreement with someone. I don't know if it was Sega or Nintendo. I can't remember. But if I was to choose, I have one of these two, it would 110% be Code Veronica. It was a much better game than this. So yeah, I like the fact that they are going to be remaking it. If anything, it's the oh god, I need more time to be able to talk about this. I'm trying to get all my words out like as fast as I can. But this game doesn't need work, is what I'm saying. Yeah, fair enough, the buttons are a little bit clunky, but it was the first game of the franchise where the camera was over the shoulder, as far as I remember, barring Dead Aim, which came out on the PlayStation 2, which was a hybrid between first person and third person. But yeah, I wouldn't have chosen this. I don't think it needs the work that the others did need. I mean, 2 and 3 were still perfect games for me, because I like the tank controls. But the fact that those have now been opened up to a much broader audience because of the way that the cameras and because of the way that the survival horror element has been tweaked, shall we say, from a different perspective, it does open it up to a lot of people. Like I said to you, Graham, there is no way that you would ever go back and want to play Resident Evil 1, 2, 3 and 0 because of the way that the camera was, the way that it functioned, the tank controls. You would be pissed off within about an hour or two, if you got that far. But the fact that it's a third-person action camera with the survival horror elements, it gives you a little bit more to play with.
Do you think it's... I mean, obviously we're talking about a rumour, as we put in the discussing now slate on the screen. How likely do we think this rumour is? Obviously, we've spoken about Dusk Golem, aka at Aesthetic Gamer 1 on Twitter the last few weeks and months. Yeah. They've been mentioned a few times. Obviously, they have a lot of information reportedly from horror games or scary games, and they've had previous things coming true about the Resident Evil 2 remake and then the Resident Evil 3 remake. So all things considered, do we think this is likely?
Very. If I was going to put money on it, I think this would have been the most likely out of all the Resident Evil games to get. Shall we say the Resident Evil Revelations treatment, where he gets taken behind. It's updated to use both the thumbsticks and have all the actiony elements of a survival horror game. I thought the 4 would have been an absolute banker. But going back to Asim's original point where he said that they're going back through all the best-selling games, if there was eventually going to get to Resident Evil 4, then it would have made sense to start with 2 and 3. I mean, it would have made perfect sense to start with 1.
I mean, that's a question I've had as someone that hasn't played any of the games. Why start with 2 and not 1? What's the reasoning for that?
Because 1's already been remastered twice? No, 3 times. So the original one, in fact, no, 4 times, because they brought out the original one in '96, I think, and over the next 8, over the 12-month period, they re-brought it out again with DualShock support, so you could play it, because originally it was made with the PlayStation that didn't have the DualShocks, and then they re-brought it out again with the DualShock support, which included a demo disc of Resident Evil 2. And then a couple of years later, they re-brought it out on the GameCube as like a HD resolution version, with massive changes to the way that the Spencer Mansion was, the way that you hold your inventory, blah blah blah. And then they re-brought it out again on the PlayStation, on the Xbox 360, and then again on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So they've had various different types of Resident Evil 1 game. Why I would have loved to have played a Resident Evil 1 game with the features that we've got now in Resident Evil 2 and 3, because I thought that the way that Jill and Chris are in the original ones, and you get to meet Wesker, like, I don't think you've even encountered him yet. Like, you don't even know who this bloke is if you've never played a Resident Evil game, but he's like one of the main protagonists out of every single, like, Albert Wesker is Resident Evil, but you don't know who he is because the only games that you've been open to being played at the moment is 2 and 3, so it makes no sense.
Yeah. I've only heard of Wesker through cosplayers. Yeah.
So if they wanted to bring a new audience in, then the main thing would have been to start with 1, and then you would have been able to move on to 2 and 3. I mean, 1's seen more remakes than possibly anything in the Resident Evil franchise ever. I mean, 4's been ported to absolutely everything, but so has 1. So yeah, it would have made sense for them to be able to do that. So how they're doing it, I don't know, but I do know that someone posted a poll from Capcom. I don't know if it was Capcom themselves or one of Shinji Mikami or whoever it was, posted a poll to say which one do you want to remake next, and the obvious choice that everyone went for was 4. As long as they stay away from 5 and 6, that's fine, unless they completely rewrite them.
You could even tell from your face then, fuck this shit. I mean, I've not even played these games and I dislike them because of the way Baby talks about them.
I mean, I've got them, don't get me wrong, I've literally got them right in my collection here. But
yeah, but no Baby buys all the shit games.
There's no way that I'm putting that into my PlayStation or my Xbox to play these games. I said to you after you've done 3, move on to Resident Evil Revelations, mate, because that's where it starts to pick up again for me, personally.
And jumping back into the article then, a comment which Asim has echoed said, it's good that they've got Mikami's blessing. Love that. I mean, so jumping back over that, I apologise, my reading will continue to be crap throughout the day because I have extremely bad allergies at the moment. I hope it's that and not the Rona, but we will progress as if it is just the allergies, so I'm struggling to keep focus when I'm reading, but the bits that I did touch on were Resident Evil 4 is certainly a much better known entry, but it's also a much more difficult prospect, given it's widely regarded as one of the best video games ever, which ties into something Asim said about being one of the best selling. So, these designs for Resident Evil 4 will apparently fall to new studio M2, which is headed by former Platinum Games president Tatsuya Minami, and while technically independent, was founded with financial help from Capcom. M2's first project was the Resident Evil 3 remake, where they were one of several contributing studios, but they will take the lead on Resident Evil 4, according to the website VGC. But then this is the bit that Asim says. It's claimed that while original Resident Evil 4 director Shinji Mikami, whose company Tango Gameworks is owned by Bethesda, was given the chance to lead the project, he declined but has still been offering advice since planning work began in 2018. So it's hearing bits like that, which it's good. Asim's comment says it's good that they've got Mikami's blessing. Love that. It's things like that that then start to make me think, okay, this isn't just usual. Oh, it seems likely. There has been a remake and it was successful, so they made another one, which has, yes, it hasn't been as successful as the earlier ones, so all the articles keep saying. Yes, it didn't review as well, and the physical sales haven't sold as well, but nobody's buying physical right now. Anyway, so I imagine it's still done very, very well for Capcom. So, yeah. We have successful remake, so we make the sequel. which is successful, surely the logical story is to make the sequel anyway. So if someone says, Aesthetic Gamer says they're going to make another Resident Evil game, I'll be like, oh, great, I could tell you that. They're going to make... tomorrow will exist. Oh no, breaking news. But it's the fact that there's these little bits of information that, yes, it could be all bullshit. Someone could be just knitting it. But it's quite detailed bullshit. The fact that Shinji Mikami isn't involved in it, but has essentially given his thumbs up to say, yeah, I'll get involved. I'll give you some little bits with it, but I'm not going to lead it. Obviously, that's where Tatsuya Minami and... M2, they are going to lead the studio, obviously paid for by Capcom, makes sense, but it's those little bits of nuggets that's what starts to make the rumours be a bit more than rumour and make me think that it's very, very, very much possible.
Well, Resident Evil stock at the moment couldn't be any higher. With the success of 7, the success of Resident Evil 2 remake, the Resident Evil 3 remake, massive steps forward in the way that Capcom are now revisiting these games. As good as 4 was, again, personal preference aside, it's not my favourite game, and it's not the one that I would have liked them to go with next. But Resident Evil 4 is universally loved across not just survival horror and Resident Evil fans. It is one of the biggest games that has probably ever come out on any console. It crossed barriers. It is one of the best games on the Wii. Using the Wii remote to be able to shoot and things like that, it was probably my favourite way of playing that game. Is on the Wii. So if they want to be able to expand their stock, shall we say, having the most recognised game in the franchise being put on every console again, because no doubt it's going to be coming out on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and the Series X. So there's 4 separate consoles that it's going to come out for. They're not just going to make it for the new console. I reckon they're going to bring it out for this generation, shall we say, as well. So the install base is going to be massive for that game, and I do think it's going to do extremely well for them. It's just not the one that I would have gone with next. Code Veronica would have been the ultimate game. Being Claire Redfield again, it would have been great.
It's like just hearing what you were saying there as well. Your natural, logical thought process, which is the direct contrast that we've had in the first 2 articles. You're saying, if this game comes out in 2022, it'll be on PS4, Series X, it's PS4, Xbox One, Series X, PS5, Switch, PCs, and all that sort of stuff. Which then just makes you think, what are they doing with the WWE series? If the fact that they're going to release a game that's coming out in 2022 that isn't gonna, it's just, if that is the plan. But obviously, one thing we don't have, as mentioned by Asim as well, is that those credible rumours. These appear to be, because obviously VGC posted this, written by Andy Robinson, the Resident Evil one, not the WWE one, I mean. So yeah, I've just clicked through to that article. I'll show you on the screen for anyone that where's my there we go. So they've gone with the wording that Capcom has greenlit a Resident Evil 4 remake. Following its reimaginings of Resident Evil 2 and 3, multiple development sources have told VGC that Resident Evil 4 remake has now entered full production with an estimated release window in 2022. And then a little bit lower down, update! More details have emerged on Capcom's Resident Evil 4 remake project, including claims it will be co-developed by parts of the Resident Evil 2 and Devil May Cry 5 team. So yes, it looks pretty much nailed on. But one thing that we haven't touched on and wasn't in the plan, but I'm going to click on it just because, Bib's there. They've got the anti-Warzone now in Cuisine Royale, babe. Cuisine Royale, yeah. But anyway, let's get rid of that. Let's move forward though. Let's try keep things concise in this one. As soon as
I'm just gonna go and fill my water bottle up again because I've just gone through it back in 2 seconds.
Okay, well I'll jump into the next news article, which let me make full screen for you. Is the Steam Game Festival 2020 will kick off on June the 9th, the same day E3 was meant to begin. This is written by Emily Gera for VG 24/7, and the article says, with E3 2020 officially cancelled, the Game Awards host Jeff Keighley has announced that the Steam Game Festival will be returning once again this year. The Steam Game Festival kicks off on June the 9th, the day E3 was originally scheduled to start, and will run until June the 14th. Like the previous Steam Game Festivals, the upcoming event will offer up free game demos to Steam users for a 48-hour window. Although Keighley's tweet suggests that this time things might be a bit bigger. Embedded quote within the article says, "Much more news will be coming about my plans for the summer," he writes. "An entirely new way for us for us all to gather and celebrate gaming in these uncertain times." So you'll get a little bit of an echo now as I'm going to read the embedded tweets from Jeff Keighley that says, "I'm excited to share that the Game Festival will return this summer on Steam from June the 9th to the 14th, 2020, allowing you to play more upcoming games from the comfort of your home. Developers can register here." And then there's a link through to Steam there. And then the follow-up tweet says, "Much more news will be coming soon about my plans for the summer, an entirely new way for us all to gather and celebrate gaming in these uncertain times." So the Steam Game Festival was first announced in 2019, taking place, as I should say, alongside the Game Awards. 6 years ago, I bet everything I had to create the Game Awards as a way to celebrate our passion for gaming, Keighley said at the time. "Now feels like the right time to take the next step with the Game Festival, a completely digital approach to the consumer event space. Let's face it, not everyone can attend a physical trade show or consumer event. The Game Festival is designed from the ground up as an event without barriers, extending the benefits of a physical event to the global gaming community that watches the Game Awards. A spring edition of the event took place in March, highlighting over 40 games whose demos were meant for this year's postponed GDC event." This is where we should throw back into the chat and mention Mr. Tasim Anvir, industry leaker extraordinaire, because he did mention the Steam Games Festival last week, I think it was, when we were talking about E3 and how E3 can be a much more engaging, interactive experience. So all I want to say is either Tasim Anvir, aka Asim Tanvir, is a definitive industry leaker, or have you seen Jeff Keighley and Asim Tanvir in the same room?
Very good question.
Oh, bollocks! I think I have actually. Fuck! I think oh no!
What's your initial thoughts on this then?
I like this. I really like this. And I think this conversation started. So let me just actually update the discussing now. So if anyone drops in, they can see what we're talking about. Steam. No, that's a Sturm. Steam Game Festival back in 2020. Okay. Oh, that says Festival as well. It actually says Festival. Anyway, Steam Game Festival back in 2020. I like this. I really like this. Actually, before I jump into my thoughts, I'll give you Asim's thoughts in the chat. Yes, great idea. When I was at CI, we put Rocky and Eldest Souls in the first one. Exactly. And that's the good thing about it. It's going back to the bigger picture kind of thing, I like the idea of the Steam Games Festival, and that was kind of what we spoke about last week, saying the ESA need to reimagine, as they keep putting it, E3. But are they properly going to reimagine it? Because for me, reimagining it is thinking about it from the ground up. What are you trying to do as E3, as a trade show, as a consumer show? You want to show people the new experiences, the new things that people are going to invest their, not money, but their time, their effort in. And these are going to be things that people are going to consume and then live with for the rest of their lives. I mean, we've just been talking about playing wrestling games on potentially dodgy versions of the game in high school and things like that. That's because, we're not just investing in a game that we want to spend money on. Like I say, these are experiences that we want to take with us forever. And if it's just an experience that only the certain few can attend in LA and watch a couple of videos, and oh yeah, great, yeah, that was nice. You don't remember the events; they don't stick with you. You remember the games. So making it recognizing that it's all about the games and putting them first and foremost, and saying, look, we're all here in a big presentation room. We've got lights and we've got Keanu Reeves and we've got Tasim Anvir leaking stuff in the front row because you know what he's like. And yeah, that's all well and good, but put it in my hands at that point in time. Allow me to play the game. Allow me to play the demo and stuff, so I can share the thoughts of everyone sat in that room. It's not just a case of, oh, you can watch a YouTube video about it and you'll get to play it in 2 months' time. Yeah, that's nice, and that's advanced from where we were 20 years ago, but that's still where we were 10 years ago. We need to get forward, and I think Steam are really, really they're where the ESA should be thinking, looking at how can we advance this so that it becomes a community celebration as opposed to a one-way conversation. Lewis says, "Nice talk, Graham." Thanks, mate.
Oh, God.
Yeah, Bibby's.
Right, Lewis.
Bibby's had one. He had to go. He keeps having to go off camera because he has to go and kiss it. That's what he getting a drink. He says, "Yeah, cost me."
Well, funnily enough, you got a picture of me holding one of them up. That Samantha conveniently went out shopping yesterday. Unfortunately, with my surname on the back of it.
Yeah,
absolute disgrace.
I mean, it keeps saying that it was for Samantha. I've got a picture of Bibby holding up a United shirt, looking longingly at it, and it has his surname on it. That's all I'm saying.
Bibby's a closet red. Lewis, you know as well as anybody that is not the case.
Also, afternoon, Madge, if you're still here. Magic Man, good afternoon.
Right, Madge. So yeah, it takes away the need for people to. I mean, even at EGX, for instance, and Gamescom, the queues for some of the stuff like Cyberpunk, people was queuing there for like 4 hours to watch a trailer, whereas this now gives the opportunity for people to be able to try 40 games. Like, demos just don't seem to exist anymore. It's something that I feel like needs to be brought back. Fair enough. There's a lot more ways to be able to hack into the game code now to be able to pretty much unlock the whole game via the demo, which is super dumb. But it just means that if companies are going to take the time to create a demo, you create a demo using the assets that are available in the game, not the whole game scaled down to a timed part of where you start it.
It's like having a full game and then going, okay, we don't want people to see this. What can we do? We can build a wall around it. Oh, nice. So people can't actually see. Yes, that's the plan. What are we going to build the wall out of? Poppadoms. Nice. And that's literally what it is. Just like anyone that's got any knowledge of coding just goes, oh, there we go. I've broken through the poppadom. Oh, no.
But that's pretty much what it's like. It's just someone, if a demo comes out of a game, chances are by the end of that day, someone's hacked into it and managed to unlock the whole fucking thing, so there's no need for you to be able to go and buy the game. But if they're going to create demos, especially for these types of events, then I want to see more demos knocking about, because a lot of money gets spent on video games nowadays, believe it or not. And you're probably looking at a brand new game costing between 40 and 55 to 60 quid, and that's just for a standard edition. If you want the Mega Ultimate Edition, then you're looking at about 80 quid. If you want the Super Deluxe Mega Ultimate fucking top tier edition, you're looking at like 150 quid. So if I want to play it, if I want to feel what a game plays like, and I want to see its visuals, and there's a lot of hype around it, but it's the first time I'm getting into a genre, then give me a demo of a game so I can play it for like half an hour, get used to it, see if it's the kind of game that I like. I feel games back in the day when you used to buy magazines and used to get about 10 demos on a disc, that for me still feels like the glory days, because you're getting an opportunity to test 10 games out from your home before you want to put aside money for potential games that are going to come out. Then you flick through the magazine, you want to find out more about the lore of a game or what the developers are talking about and stuff like that. You just simply flick through to the page that the game's being focused on. That for me still feels like the glory days. We just don't have enough of that anymore.
Yeah, I think there's I do feel that there is still a little bit of maturing for the industry there, because putting unfinished games out into people's hands is not only a marketing tool, it's a profitable tool, as we've seen with like early access and beta launches that then roll into the full 1.0 launch kind of thing. Businesses are using that and are doing that fairly well in certain respects, but having that in a way that works as something that ties into the marketing campaign using these events, I think that is something where they can evolve. And I do think maybe it's harder for the bigger games. So say if it's a Battlefield or something that or a Battlefront or a Call of Duty or not even first person shooters, any games, they may go, actually that doesn't really tie in with us, so what we're going to do is do our own launch and do the full launch and stuff like that, which is that's fine. Okay, that works for you. But then let's go back to Asim's comment. Where was it? I've lost it. When he was at CI Games, they did it with Roki and Eldest Souls, which, okay, if the likes of Battlefront and Battlefields and the Call of Duties and maybe the Resis that have got their own demo that they're going to release 2 weeks before the launch because that's what works for them, that's fine. But say if we have a an E3 2021, which has already been confirmed, and they do the Steam Game Festival, but alongside E3, Jeff Keighley gets his Game Festival there, and Rocky 2 and Elder Souls 2 come out there. You're not going to be able to play Call of Duty. You're not going to be able to play whatever games there. But in June at that time, around the buzz of E3, a lot more people will be able to get their hands on with a game like Rocky, which may have passed them by. Rocky probably would have passed me by, kind of. If well, a couple of things. I mean, obviously we're working with Asim at that point in time anyway. But the other bit was this festival, seeing what CI Games and many others did there, put games that weren't necessarily getting into the hands or into the eyes and the thoughts of a lot of people by actually allowing them to put it in their hands. Lets them go, actually, do you know what? I can take part. Not only am I taking part in the actual celebration of the games, but I can get my hands on with games that aren't that would never have been in my psyche anyway. As Asim said then, the uplift in terms of interest and wish lists was huge. Yeah, exactly. And that's it. I mean, it's really good because it's good for the developers. It's good for obviously publishers as well by proxy, but it's good for them in terms of they get more exposure and more sales. But it's better from a community perspective. It's not just sit and watch us in a magical land on the other side of the Atlantic playing games for a few days and then you can play it in 2 months' time. It's take part in it now, and I love the fact that it's something that the industry has been clamouring for a long period of time, particularly the content creation side of the industry. Maybe not so much the journalistic side of the industry, because if you take the games and put it in everyone's hands, then why are people going to read news articles about it? Yeah, it is what it is. You can't tell someone about something they already know, really. So there'd be less journalistic value in certain games. But yeah, the whole thing, that's where the whole reimagining comes from. It's a whole new set of issues and problems that come from it, but it allows a lot more people to get involved in the event, and it's something that can become it's something that can become a big celebration, which is exactly what Rise isn't doing right now. Boycott Riot, boycott Riot, boycott Riot. 120 plus hours and still no Valorant key. Yikes.
If it makes you feel any better, I think Graham's probably watched less time and got one.
No, I watched a shitload of time, to be fair. Even Danielle, my better half, was trying to figure out how she could log in and watch for me, not realising obviously they had to link a Riot account. So she was like, I'm watching Summit's channel now, and it's letting me know that his channel's eligible for drops and stuff. I was like, yeah, I appreciate it, but it's not for me. But yeah, that's how much time I was watching. My missus was trying to get me a Valorant key, and I got one! So yeah, no boycotting right around here. So yeah, not that I've actually played it yet. Got it, downloaded it, installed it yesterday, and been doing homeschooling today, so maybe I'll try it this evening or something. But yeah, it's going to take me a long-ass growth curve. I didn't want to play it yesterday. I did have time to jump on it, but it'd have been probably like half an hour or so, and for something like that, 30 to 60 minutes, I'm still going to be like just pretty much finger on W key running face first into a wall for never mind understanding what my special moves on my ultis and everything are. So yeah, I need a chunk of time to get used to it. Ideally, I'd have someone that knows how to play the game already playing it with me, but
Connor.
Has Connor got it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think he got a drop on the first day, actually.
Yeah, we all know he's had like 15 accounts, 15 streams open on 15 different PCs or something. You know what those dodgy Spanish esports guys are like. Yeah. Shout out to the team at El Buzzkill. Anyway, I wonder if they will announce the new Steam controller around the Game Festival. If you didn't see my message, they've applied for payment for another controller. I did see it, but I completely forgot about it.
I didn't. No, I saw it. The pattern looks exactly the same as I've got. What a Steam controller? It's downstairs. It looks exactly the same, apart from the analog stick. That's the actual only analog stick that's on the controller is apparently going to be removed. You can remove it like you can on the Astro controller and put a D-pad there instead. Looks exactly the same.
Interesting. But yeah, David did send me a Facebook message. I did read it, and it said one for Bib, new Steam controller. So there you go. You've seen it already. Moving on.
Yeah, the articles that I seen, there was like 3 paragraphs saying that they've applied for a patent on it. There was nothing major on it. I mean, the Steam controller has probably gone down in history as one of the worst controllers ever.
Discussing now. Hide. Chrome. Open. There we go. Pow. So the next news article, we'll just fly over this one because it could stumble into a well of negativity about loot boxes, because that's where everyone tends to go, and we've done it a few times. So we'll just go over a little bit of an information share with you, written by Tom Phillips for Eurogamer. UK games will now state if they let you buy random loot boxes and card packs. No need to open the box to find out. European video games rating board PEGI has announced it will now label video games that include paid random items, a term meant to cover loot boxes, card packs, and the like. The rating will be shown on the back of game boxes and on digital store listings, below the existing in-game purchase icon, in-game purchases even icon, which has been a big part of the PEGI rating since September 2018. The ESRB, America's ratings board, today confirmed it would introduce the same measure. Here's how the labels look. So that's in-game purchases, and then there we go, violence and in-game purchases as well. So there we go. And this is the ESRB rating. In-game purchases includes random items. So PEGI defines paid random items as all in-game offers to purchase digital goods or premiums where players don't know exactly what they're getting prior to purchases, e.g. loot boxes, card packs, prize wheels. And then it goes back to the article. It says it does not matter if the game items received are bought with real-world money or in-game virtual currency purchased with real money. Both are covered. Both PEGI and the ESRB moved to label in-game purchases, regardless of whether they were blind boxes or simply the purchase of expansions, back in 2018 after a spike in controversy. The year before had seen awareness of microtransaction mechanics hit the mainstream, which in turn sparked debate over whether loot boxes constituted gambling. The answer to which still depends on where you live, although I would say it is. But the issue has not left the headlines since last December the DCMS committee recommended the UK government regulated loot boxes under the Gambling Act. And in January this year, the NHS said young people's health was at stake due to loot boxes setting kids up for addiction to gambling. As more games offer the ability to purchase an expansion or season pass via the main menu, this new additional warning for random items will serve as a clearer marker to differentiate between games with loot boxes and those without. And then a horribly placed link there that says buy FIFA 20 from Amazon. Oh, nice! One of the most loot boxy games in the world. GG, you're a game. That's a bit awkward, but we'll leave it there. Quick thoughts. My quick thoughts on that are it's nice. I mean, it won't change much. The fact that there's a little bit there that says in-game purchases are there. It's almost like putting a drink in front of someone and saying, if you drink too much of that, it could be bad for your health. It's still there. People are still going to drink it. Take away the issue. Or, shit analogy. You can see where I was going for it. It's not really addressing the issue. It's just trying to point people's attention to it in a not very big way. I mean, a lot of people I know, and myself included, I don't and never have looked at age ratings on games as to whether it was suitable for me or not. I never have. I know it exists on films where you'll get like this film includes moderate sex, violence, whatever. Don't read any of that. That looks like a good cover. I'll play that. I'll watch that. I'll read that. Well, I'm clearly not going to read it because don't do that. I ain't got time for that. But yeah. It's nice, it's there, but yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to make that much difference. It's nice to see steps forward. Having things like that on it means hopefully we're a step closer to it being properly regulated, and I think that's what my ideal dream is, that it is regulated and they remove it as much as possible. And I'm happy enough with things like season passes and battle passes because you've got a guaranteed return on investment. But I'm not a fan of any game that has any form of loot box mechanism. My personal standpoint, yes, I get some people are, but for me, my personal bit, it's too close to gambling for me. I'm not interested.
Yes. I mean, your analogy was right in regards to like the this stuff has been put on food and drinks for ages, not the microtransaction stuff, but a guide to say how much fat, sugar, and saturated shit that's in these drinks, and there isn't that many people that still, myself included, pay that much attention to that shit. I see something red on there and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll only have one of them instead of two. Do you know what I mean? It gives you an idea, but this is on the back of a case. Do you know what I mean? Like, as a parent, you should probably kind of know what the game is about before you buy it anyway. Now, if it's FIFA or a sports game with loot boxes inside there, I think it's pretty obvious now which games are heavily led by microtransactions because the world knows. Like, you don't have to be in the know to know that these games have severe microtransactions inside them. Like, it's probably common knowledge. Now, if I went down and spoke to Samantha about it, knowing she's as far away from the video game world as someone could possibly be, she would know that. So it's a start, but like you say, the regulations have to come in at some point.
No, I agree. It's nice. It's nice to see we're moving in the right direction. We're not far enough yet, but still, Rome wasn't built in a day. All that baby steps and whatever you want to call it. But anyway, let's move forward to our last story of the day. Hopefully, bring this one up on screen for you now. Written by Jon Porter at The Verge, Nintendo Switch update lets you transfer game downloads to an SD card. There are also some new Animal Crossing icons. The Nintendo Switch's 10.0.0 firmware update, which is available now, adds the ability for you to transfer your downloaded games directly from your system memory to an SD card, or vice versa, to free up storage. The update also allows you to remap buttons on your controller and illustrate your user profile from a new collection of Animal Crossing New Horizons icons. Whoop. Mega scroll. Transferring data directly between the console's internal and external memory is a feature people have been asking for a while. Previously, if you filled up your internal storage and you wanted to offload games and updates to an SD card, then your only option was to re-download them. This new feature should make it much quicker and more convenient. According to the patch notes, downloadable software, update data, and DLC are supported, but save data and some update data can't be transferred to an SD card. The new button remapping feature is accessed from the controllers and sensors section of the console's system settings. It works with the Joy-Cons, Pro Controller, and the Switch Lite's built-in controls, and it lets you swap around your buttons and analog sticks. Once you've set up a new configuration, you can save it as up to one of 5 presets. Helpful if you don't want button layouts, if you want different button layouts for different games. Switch software version 10.0.0 is available now. You can update your system manually from the system section of the settings menu, but I found my console updated automatically when I booted it up this morning, says Jon Porter. Thoughts, babe?
Again, Nintendo are getting there with new features. I think it'll be a while before they get to anywhere close to the features that we have on the likes of PlayStation and Xbox and things like that. But again, it's another step in the right direction. The game downloads to an SD card has always been a pain in the arse. Especially with someone who didn't have a massive SD card to begin with. So yeah, I'm not sure about the button mapping. That seems a bit weird. Like, maybe I'm not playing enough games where the button mapping would help me. I don't know. It's a bit weird.
Yeah, I haven't played enough. I can understand button mapping, but I haven't played enough. Or I don't play my Switch enough for me to probably see the need for it or the benefit for it. I treat it as a much more casual experience, so therefore I don't think, I really need to change this to I don't know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so if I'm playing a game on a console and I'm spending many hours on it, then things may start to tick over at that point in time. But I think because it's not as an immersive experience for me. It probably is for other people, but because it isn't for me, I don't see the need or the benefits of mapping buttons. I'll just make do with what I have, and not even make do. I never think, actually I should swap that one. I've never had that experience where I've needed to remap the buttons. But there you go. It's better off to have the option than not have the option, I suppose.
Absolutely. Again, it's you don't have that feature on PlayStation, for instance. You have to. It's not software that's built in. You have to do it on your PC to map your buttons, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And the downloading via an SD card. I mean, is it useful? Yes. Is it something that's going to change the world? No, but sometimes quality of life improvements are what change the world. Add a bunch of those together, job's good. I mean, for me, the only reason I say that is it going to change the world? No, because I've never even thought of changing, uploading, downloading things, but I don't have a massive library of Switch games. So I suppose the closest comparison I can get with that is when I have inevitably to update Call of Duty Warzone when it gets another 250,000 gig update or whatever because they've added one new skin to a weapon or something. It's just a little bit of shade there. Sorry, just take the shade. Yeah, when your hard drive's full, it is a bit of a ball ache, so I suppose that is Nintendo Switch's workaround for that. It's easy to just change things around. You don't have to do all sorts of re-downloading and shit. You can just go, boop, there you go. off the card, on the card, job's good.
I mean, we still don't have voice chat in most games, and you have to use a third-party app on your mobile to be able to do it. But yeah, it's SD cards and button mapping. That's still what we want.
I mean, we can do voice chat while we're racking up chicken dinners on a train back from Glasgow. So I mean, come on, Switch.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Anyway, let's jump back into the chat before we start to wrap things up. Odds on someone getting me one, please. I'm gonna cry. Says Rise. Is variant going to be free to play? Actually, that's a joke.
Yes, it is.
Have they confirmed that yet?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
It's on their website.
Nice. One of my best mates literally had to see medical help at the age of 15 because he spent bare of his parents' money on FIFA and was so addicted. Severe violence was his response if he couldn't. He's now 21 and admits he was severely addicted. For fuck's sake, he was only 15. There needs so much more to be put in place. 100%. 100%. And I think that's it. It is an addiction. It's as simple as that. We have gambling addiction is a recognised addiction. So no, you can't have gambling light, as far as I'm concerned, in something in an impressionable audiences. You can't. No parent would say, actually, do you know what? Let's just give him. Have you got? I mean, what's the strength on that Sambuca? Oh, it's 20%. I don't actually know how much Sambuca is. It's 20%. Oh, have you got any 10% Sambucas just for my kids to drink? It's like, no parent's going to do that. It's Sambuca. You're still drinking fucking alcohol. So it's the same thing. Yeah, that gambling is highly addictive and can ruin their lives. But have you got, like, can we call it gumbling? Because kids like gum. Can we call it gumbling? Just the same thing? No, because it's still gambling. Sort your shit out, mate. It's not. We're not having that. Get out of here. So yeah, gambling, get it away. We don't want any of that. But anyway, I think we're pretty much done for the day.
Yeah.
One thing we are going to do, though, we are going to raid. We are friends with the people at Koch Media, so we're going to raid Koch Media UK because they're trying something new in these times of COVID. They are trying to do their own streamy stuff, so when we finish the show, we will jump in there. If you don't mind hanging around just to go say hello, every little helps, and they're obviously fairly new to the streaming game, so just having a few people dropping in their chat while they play Grid would be nice, so feel free to do that. But we are done for the day. We will be back with, I want to say, a good game, but I don't particularly feel that. Bibby, on the other hand, has bought it 10,000 bajillion times. I'm joking, just trying to solve. Bibby has been playing a little bit of the Elder Scrolls 3 this morning. No doubt he will be back at some point before we are back on the air tomorrow, because that's just what Bibby is. Bibby is 50% Elder Scrolls. But I'm rambling now. WWE2K21 reportedly cancelled in favour of a new game. We've got the link in the chat. There we go. Actually, good news, WWE 2K series that. Yeah, interesting. It's interesting. They're going to cancel it, come back in 2022, but with a last-gen game rather than a next-gen game. I don't understand. But yeah, we'll figure it out in time all together, which you can do by dropping a follow on this channel. A follow will get you alerts every time we go live. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to hit the sub button, because you will get this video 5 times a week. We upload on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday after we've done the show live on Twitch. If you are on YouTube, hi. Please feel free to leave a comment down below as well. But anything you want to add before we disappear for the day, Lord Bibbington?
Yes, I do. If you do see any more video games knocking around, the video gaming social media platforms, i.e. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, OnlyFans, whatever it is that you're watching or getting your video game fix from, then do feel free to tag in. We've got Beanio at Graham_Day and at Ice Cream Uploads. We will take your thoughts and impressions on that news story, add our thoughts and impressions on the very next show, which will be tomorrow at what time, Graham?
2 p.m.
There we go.
We think.
Ish.
I mean, it could be before. We could be back before then with something else. We don't know. It's just all living a flexible time right now. So yeah. Anyway, have yourselves a very lovely afternoon. We may even be back some point this evening with some video games for you. So stick around. Best way to find out is to follow the channel if you haven't already. But as Mr. Tasim Anvir, reported, reputable industry leaker, has put in the chat, we have an exclusive emote which you can use every time we go to log off, which is exactly what we are about to do now. So have yourselves a very lovely day. Spam that emote and make sure you stay frosty.